Because he was finna get frisky. He was finna physically. Then he went to a more mentally aspect. The Jews, the Judites, the so-called African Americans, they got into politics. A lot of us people got into politics, different economics, social environments, to better environment. Who shall rouse them up? The Most High gonna rouse us up. That's why you got incidents like Ferguson, Baltimore, because the Jews, a lot of Negroes getting rousy, because the Most High putting that spirit out there, because he gonna rouse them up. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, right? The rulership, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, because the Jews, we ruled in Jerusalem. We was the head tribe of the nation of Israel. The scribes and Pharisees, they was Jews. From between his feet until Shiloh come. Right, Shiloh is Jesus Christ. Yahushua came 2,000 years ago. That's when we lost the rulership. That's why Jesus Christ said in Luke, Yahushua, he said in Luke 21, that's when we lost our rulership. Because we was already under the Romans, the so-called white man. But we officially lost our rulership, our whole land, man. And when ye, this Luke 21:20, and when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is not. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereto. Right? When we was in Judea and Jerusalem, the Jews, the tribe of Judah, the so-called American, African American, Negro blacks, not the white man, that's in Jerusalem. He say he Jewish. Ish mean pertaining to be. Ish, Jewish. He trying to be like the Jews. And that's exactly what they doing. The Jewish people pertaining to be Jews. This Revelations 2:9. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty. Right? The Most High know the distress, the tribulations of the Jews. We in the lowest East states than any other nation. Other nations got whole lands, rulership, governments, bodies, armies. But thou art rich. Why? Because all the promises to Israel. And I know the blasphemy. I know the blasphemy, the filthy, stinking, wicked lie of them which say they are Jews. Only people that say they Jews, the Jewish white people, the Khazars. They say they're Jews and are not. They are not and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. They are not the Jews born. This Revelation, this in the Holy Bible, same Bible. Everybody so-called read out Christian churches send homage to these people. They not even the Jews. The real Jews is the so-called blacks in America that's catching more hell than any nations in the world. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Right? When Mashiach return, he gonna gather the elect and the remnant of Israel, bending his foil unto the vine. Bending his foil unto the vine. Right? The so-called black man known for drinking wine. Red Irish Rose. For real, that's one of their favorite drinks. I know. I'm a so-called African American Negro. Binding his foil unto the vine, and his ass coat unto the choice vine. Right? Known for drinking wine. He washed his garments in wine. Right? Another description of the so-called black man, African American Negro, that he drink wine, and is clothed in blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine. Right? You see a so-called black man, the whites of his eyes red. Because he drink a lot of wine. That's what wine do to the whites of your eyes. It turn it red. And his teeth white with milk. Big curly white teeth. A dark black male, so-called black man, with pearly white teeth. That's the tribe. Got Reuben, the so-called Seminole Indians. Then you got Simeon, the so-called Dominicans. Levi, the so-called Haitians. Judah, the so-called African Americans, Negroes. Now Zebulon shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. Zebulon shall dwell at the haven of the sea. Zebulon is the so-called Guatemalans to Panama. Zebulon is the so-called Guatemalans to Panama, because that's where a lot of the ships be at. The Panama Canal. The Panama Canal. The Panama Canal, and he shall be for a haven of ships. You ever look at the Panama Canal between Guatemala and Panama? That's what a haven of ships, where they do imports and exports through ships. A haven of ships, of boatloads of ships by the sea. Issachar is a strong ass couching down between two burdens. Right? Issachar is the so-called Mexicans. Ectaz, the so-called Mexican or Indian Negroid descent, is a strong ass couching down between the two burdens. The symbol of Mexico is a donkey, an ass, and it got two burdens, two heavy waist things on its side to carry luggage. That's a burden. The symbol of Mexico is a strong ass couching down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and become a servant unto tribute. Right? So-called Mexicans is the hardest workers. For real, the hardest worker. And that's who you describe the so-called Mexicans is, Issachar. The Mexicans is the hardest workers. And they work for cheap. That's why he came to a servant unto tribute, to low pay. The hardest workers, whatever they do. Strong ass. I'ma skip then. Go to Gad. Gad. A troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad is a troop. The so-called Native American Indians. A troop. That's Gad. The lost tribes of Israel. Gadites is found. The so-called Native American Indians. A troop that overcame him. The Gadites was in America, North America. That's why they call North American Indians. A troop overcame them. The U.S. cavalry overcame them by conquering their land. Mad genocide. 77 million Gadites was 77 million was killed by the hand of murdered by the hand of the so-called white man. That's how they got America. For real. That's how they established America. Through the blood and sweat and tears of the Negroes, African American Judah, which they are the tribe of Judah. And Gad, their brothers, the Native American Indians, stole this land from them. And the troop that overcame is the U.S. cavalry. A troop, Gad, a troop by nature, warriors. The Native American Indian. It's a movie called Pocahontas. They show you Gadites was in the wilderness, bows and arrows, axes, by nature, warriors. a troop shall overcome him. The U.S. cavalry overcame because they had guns. But he shall overcome at the last. Right, Gadites gonna get that revenge. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Right. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat. Right. If you go over there to Asher, Colombia, South America, Colombia to Uruguay, they got some of the finest dainty like cakes and all that type of stuff. He shall yield royal dainties, like different dainties that's royal people eat. Like they had his plate, and it be like a little as dessert. It's a little dessert, but it costs like a bunch of money. A royal dainty, for real. Asher, his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. So-called Colombia to Uruguay, South America. Naphtali is a hind let loose. He giveth gully words. Right? Naphtali. Naphtali is the so-called Argentinians to Chilean. Because Naphtali, they say over there in Naphtali, South America, about Argentina, they say aloha. That's the gully words. So Reuben, the so-called Seminole Indian, the first tribe found, the lost tribe of Israel found. Simeon, the so-called Dominicans, the second tribe found. Levi, the so-called Haitians, the third tribe found. Judah, the so-called African-American Negroes found. Zebulon, the so-called Guatemalans to Panama found. Issachar, the so-called Mexicans found. Gad, the so-called Native American Indians found. Asher, the so-called Colombians to Uruguay found. Naphtali, the so-called Argentinians to Chilean found. Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well. Right, Joseph is a fruitful bow. Joseph is the so-called Puerto Ricans. Joseph is the so-called Puerto Ricans. The Puerto Ricans is the largest tribe in Israel. They the fruitful bow. Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by well. Right, in Puerto Rico, the so-called Puerto Ricans is the largest tribe of Israel. They mean fruitful. They have a lot of descendants. It's a lot of people of Ephraimites. Joseph, which means Ephraim. That's talking about Ephraim. The Ephraimites, which mean Apira, means fruitful. Because it's a lot of Puerto Ricans. A lot of so-called Puerto Ricans. They have a lot of kids. Because they fruitful. The Lord established that in Jacob. Because Reuben, he lost the firstborn birthright. Because he committed adultery, and the Lord gave the firstborn birthright to Joseph, Ephraim, and allowed Ephraim to be the largest tribe in Israel. That's why Ephraim is fruitful. Because if you know the story of Jacob and Esau, Esau sold his birthright to Jacob. When Esau wouldn't have inherited the blessing, he was rejected because he denied the Most High. He threw him under the bus. So, Jacob got the blessing of the largest nation. So that was the firstborn birthright that Reuben lost to be the largest tribe in Israel. And Joseph, Ephraimites, the Puerto Rican, that's why they're the largest tribe. They have Puerto Rican Day parades like they're a nation. Proud. The pride of Ephraim has compassed him about. Because a lot of they go Puerto Rican Day Parade, Puerto Rican Day Parade. Because, why? Because they proud like they're a nation, but they not a nation. They're a tribe. Without their brothers, they not a nation. They're a tribe of Israel. A fruitful bow by will. Right. When the Spaniards came over and conquered Puerto Rico. It was called Puerto Riches. Why? Because the Puerto Ricans on the island